communication is important to us in society throughout time. Didn't matter what time frame you lived in. The Native Americans that lived in North and South America had a unique situation because almost every uh, group, nation, if you will, had a different language. So if you wanted to be able to communicate with all the tribes around you, you literally had to learn a lot of language. There were hundreds. But the Native American people came up with an interesting solution, which to me is complicated in and of itself, but it wasn't to them. And it's called Indian Sign Language. I know you've all heard of it before. So I want to tell you about Indian Sign Language today. I found a little write up in uh, Facts and Fancies, the children's book written in 1930. And so it's written in a simplistic manner for kids of that era, which are probably about the reading grade of definitely kids of this era. So I want to share this with you. I think you'll find it interesting. Long ago, the Indians who lived on our Great Western Plains invented a sign language. Now, it was used by many, many Indian tribes that could not understand a word spoken by strange tribes. They all understood the sign language and could talk with each other simply by making motions. To talk to each other in words, these Western Indians would have to have learned many, many languages. But instead of talking or taking all that trouble, they learned the sign language, which all could understand. And in this way, they could talk to each other easily by using their hands. Now, many Indians still know sign language, and a few of them still use it. And I'm glad it's preserved because it is a special thing. Now, when an Indian is speaking the sign language and points one finger at you, that would obviously mean you. Okay, so when he points to himself with his thumb, it means what? It means me or I. Of course, a man is supposed to stand up straight. So the word man is said by holding up the first finger and doubling the rest of the hand into a fist so that the other fingers are out of the way. And there you see the man standing straight and tall. Now, a white man will grow almost as brown as an Indian if he stays out in the sun a long enough time. But the only parts of a white man that become brown is the part exposed to the sun, where his skin is to be out of doors all day long, and they always wore hats because the sun was so strong. Soon, their faces became almost as dark as the Indians' faces did, but their foreheads under the hats remained white. An Indian knew a white man by his forehead. So, one sign for white man in the Indian language is made by drawing the first finger of your right hand across your forehead, and that meant white. And then holding up the first finger to mean man. So white. Let's do that. Let's see. Uh, White man. Okay. When a man rides on a horseback, the man's legs hang down on each side of the horse. Of course. Of course. Of course. So to say man on a horseback, the Indian holds up two fingers on the right hand, pointing toward the ground, over the fingers of the left hand held palm to the right. So there, sure enough, is a picture of a two-legged man riding the body of a horse, which would be something like this. Okay. So now your fingers can say a white man on horseback in the Indian Sign Language because we've just done that. Now finish the sentence and say a white man on horseback goes by. First, make the sign for white. Rub the first finger of your right hand across your forehead and then hold your hands down to make the sign of a man on horseback. Now hold your hands at one side and move them as far past yourself on the other side as you can reach. This means goes by or away. An Indian woman often is proud of her long hair. She wears a band around her head too. Sometimes the band is a ribbon, sometimes it's a bright calico color, sometimes it is a soft animal skin worked with colored beads and quills. Of course, all this hair must have a good deal of care. This means that an Indian woman must comb her hair before she puts it into long braids that hang down over her shoulders. You make the Indian sign for woman by holding your hand by the side of your head with your fingers hooked as if you're using them to make a comb. So that's the sign for woman. The Indian says to himself, a white man thinks with his mind, but an Indian thinks with his heart. And turning a thing over and over in his heart is the Indian way of thinking. To make the sign that means think, hold the first and second fingers of your right hand over your heart, like this, over your heart. And next, roll your fingers back and forth like this. This shows that you are turning something over and over in your heart, and so it means to think. That's a pretty clever way, I think. Stealing and other wrongdoings were sometimes called, and still are, underhanded. Perhaps that thought came from the Indian Sign Language. Stealing is always sneaky and is done undercover. The Indian sign for stealing shows just how it's done. Hold your left arm in front of your chest. Keep your elbow bent and hold your arm a little away from your body. Then, with your right hand, reach out under your left arm and pretend to take something and bring it back into your right hand. That's the sign for stealing, and it shows how stealing is really underhanded. Now, you can put all these words together, and in the Indian Sign Language, the Indian woman thinks the white man stole the horse and rode away. Uh, Day is a time when everything is open and easy to see. The sign for day is made by holding your hands in front of you, palms up, and sweeping your hands outward in a curve, the full reach of your arm. And this shows that everything within reach is open and easy to see and means day. And night is just the opposite. It is a time when everything is dark and hidden. My favorite time of the day, honestly, always has been. It is a time when everything is dark and hidden. So the sign for night is made by holding your hands in front of you with palms down. Leave the palms down and sweep your hands across each other, the full reach of your arms. In this position, you see, if you held anything in your hand, it would be hidden just as night hides things from your sight. That is why this means night. The Indians did not bother with little words like a, the, and at. In their sign language, you find words that mean things or people or actions. Leaving out a word like at, just as you left out the word on in the first sentence, you can now say, the woman thinks the white man stole the horse at night. We know how well the Indian boys can run and ride and jump. Their same grace and love of beautiful shows in the Indian Sign Language when it is taught by the Indian hands. Their fingers are not clumsy at all. They move as quickly and gracefully as a bird fluttering from branch to branch of a tree. And some of the thoughts that lie behind the signs are little poems in and of themselves. So if you'd like to know more about Indian Sign Language, a book that is available, probably still in libraries, is Universal Indian Sign Language by William Tompkins. And from it, you can make up sentences and whole stories to tell each other. It would take a long time for me to learn it, but they learned it, and they used it, and it benefited all the tribes greatly. So I hope you enjoyed